All right. Now that it is officially recording, my name is Megan Singley, and I'm a community manager here at Moz. And I am your host today because your usual host is the one that's actually presenting.
Woo!
Yay, we're so excited. So this is Erica McGillivray, and she's going to be talking about how to speed up your Twitter process, which we can all get help with that. I know I definitely can. But before we get started, let's just review those housekeeping items one more time. If you're having any technical problems or if you have any feedback to give us, which we love hearing feedback, send us an email to community@moz.com. We are recording this, as I just mentioned. I just hit the record button, and we'll be posting it to moz.com/webinars, and we usually post it within about 48 hours, so keep an eye out and we'll get that up there for you. We love to get your questions. So there's a couple different ways you can ask questions. You can either ask them through the GoToMeeting interface, or you can ask them via Twitter using the Mozinar hashtag, and we usually get a good conversation going over at Twitter as well, so keep an eye on that. And the Mozinar hashtag, that's spelled M-O-Z-I-N-A-R. So again, we have Erica McGillivray today. And
how do you say my last name?
McGillivray. No. I've only been working with you for years.
Only.
Only. Okay, I'm going to pass it on over to Erica, and she's going to take it from here.
Hey, everyone. Welcome to today's Mozinar. Yay. Thank you, Megan, for the intro. My last name's McGillivray.
McGillivray. Okay, I got it now.
So I'm here today to talk to you guys about how to speed up your Twitter process. I'm the senior community manager here at Moz, and part of my responsibilities at Moz, and also part of Megan's, is we get to tweet as Roger. And we've found that, sometimes you get into doing your Twitter and you're just like, oh, this is taking me forever. And it's not, we love having conversations with you guys as Roger, but when we say it's taking forever, we mean like setting up those tweets, doing our metrics, all those things. They just take so long. So how can we speed that up? So many of you guys probably or maybe are social media managers yourself. Maybe it's one of the 1,000 hats you wear at your job. You're running around being an SEO, content person, maybe doing some graphic design work. I've been in those shoes before. Maybe that's all you do. So you got to start somewhere. You got to start with that Twitter account. Sometimes you have 0 followers when you're starting out, and sometimes you have a lot. So when you're thinking about your Twitter, you want to go back to always thinking about your goals when you're thinking about your Twitter account and what you want to do and what you want to be doing and why you want to and where you want to be working on your process. So, you may use Twitter for lots of different business goals for your brand. You might be out there meeting interesting people that are interested in your brand. It might be a customer service channel for you. You might have a lot of customers reaching out to you saying, hey, I need help. Can you give it to me? How does this work? What's this about? You may be using it just as a really great branding tool. Your competitors may be out there and on top of it, and you want to hop in. You may want to expand reach to new customers. You may be wanting sharing news or things in your culture, insights to your industry. You may be an industry leader. So for whatever reason you're on Twitter, let's make it rock, and let's focus on refining the parts of the process to help you do these things better. And there's, of course, no I in team. No matter what you are doing for your Twitter, you're probably working with other people. You may be working with graphic designers. You may be working with content people. You may, just be working closely with a client to make sure everything is beautiful. So before I get started, I'm going to talk about a lot of tools in this presentation, but I wanted to tell you guys a little about if this then that, IFTTT. So I'm going to talk about IFTTT a lot, and I wanted to explain kind of what it does first for those of you who aren't familiar with it. So IFTTT, I'm always going to trip on that last T, sets up different applications across the web to interact with each other. So you can do things with your Evernote account. You can do things with Twitter. You can do things with SMS alerts, email alerts, all sorts of things. And basically it says, if I do something here, I want you to do something here on another application. You set up triggers, kind of like dominoes. You hit one and the rest all fall down. So for instance, you might say, like, if I favorite a tweet on Twitter, I want you to save it to my favorite RSS reader, whether it's like Feedly or it's a Pocket or something like that. So very, very simple. You can set up a lot of this to be really complex. So some of the things I'm going to suggest using IFTTT for are very, very simple, like favoriting a tweet and saving it. Others are going to be a little more complex that are going to set off a trigger of events. And you just always, it's really fun to use. You know, I test it, play with it, love playing with it, looking for things on it, testing it out. Yeah, just go have fun. So anyway, so hop back over to Twitter. So when you're first out there on Twitter, you want to, go find and track your influencers. You want to go meet the people who are talking about your brand or in your industry, right? We all want to do this. So one tool I suggest for doing this is Topsy. So Topsy is really fun. It's a tool that is freemium, meaning it has a free and paid version, depending how deep you want to dig into things. And you can do lots of searches on Twitter. You can look for, specific mentions and tweets. You can look for photos, videos. I like this influencers search here for looking for people who are interested in Doctor Who. And I kind of like this because it pulls up kind of an aggregate of people who are both, putting those keywords in their Twitter handles and in their bios, but also pulling up people who are just chatting about Doctor Who quite a bit. So another influencer search I really like is Follower Wonk. Yes, full disclaimer, Moz does own Follower Wonk. Follower Wonk is also a freemium tool. And I love the bio search. When I'm out there searching for people that I want to connect with, who are interested in topics I'm interested in or that my brand is into, I can quickly search for them, and I can sort by different things. So one thing I really like, so this screenshot sorted on followers, but we have a score called Social Authority. It's right here, and you can sort by that. And Social Authority looks at how often people respond to their followers, because I don't know about you guys, but I want to follow other people that are out there replying and retweeting people and chatting with me too. So, you're finding these people. What do you do with them? Maybe you want to put them on some Twitter lists. You're following people, but you want to really connect with people. Certain people, you want to target them. You want to make sure that you're interacting with them on a regular basis. So I found this cool recipe on IFTT. That's what they call their trigger setups or recipes. And if you can activate your Instagram and your Twitter to talk to each other, and if you heart photos on Instagram and that person has a Twitter account, it will create a Twitter list of those people who you have hearted their photos. So, if you're looking for influencers on Instagram, it's also a way to connect with them on Twitter. So this is another IFTT recipe that I also really liked for creating Twitter lists, and it's called the conversation list. And so if you tweet someone's username, so say like Moz, we tweet out all the blog posts that go both on our main Moz blog and also on our UMoz blog, and we always try to include people's Twitter handles because, we love to tell them, hey, we're talking about you. Shout it out. We love to give them kudos of how awesome they are that they're on the blog. And so what this particular IFTTT recipe does is it saves, if you tweet out someone's username, it saves them on a Twitter list. So you can make sure that you're connecting with those people after you've been talking about them. So another great resource for finding people in your community and starting to interact with your industry is Twitter chats. So for those of you all participating on the Mozinar hashtag today, woohoo, you're in a kind of a Twitter chat. And so there are Twitter chats about anything. Really, I just suggest, Googling your niche and looking for a Twitter chat or just looking for lists of Twitter chats. So I found this particular Twitter chat. I found it is really, really niche specific. So this is a Twitter chat for people who run social media accounts for churches. So, I was reading it and it was a very lively chat. Lots of people helping each other out. So that was really awesome. But, very, very specific to an industry that, people might not automatically think, oh, there's totally going to be a Twitter chat for people who run social media accounts for churches. Another great resource that I love for keeping up with the people who I've connected with in my industry is Newsly. So Newsly is a service that you can connect your LinkedIn and your Facebook to, or you can track certain specific people if you're keen to follow someone that you're not connected with on those networks. And it sends you an email every day if there are mentions of people that you are friends with on Facebook or connected with on LinkedIn, if they've been in the news. So this is really great if, you're working with someone that you want to tell hey, that's really awesome. I saw that you were mentioned here. If I wanted to be oh, hey, Dr. Pete, you were mentioned in this business journal. That's pretty cool. Congratulations. People love when you can pat them on the back or, mention it in the hallway or send them an email. It's a great way to further connect with people and show them that you're actually paying attention to what they're doing. So another, a little old school way of connecting with people, but another thing I really like that I personally use a lot is still my RSS reader. I know Google Reader shut down and I cried, and a lot of people say RSS is dead, but I highly disagree with that. I couldn't imagine organizing my life and making sure to keep up with the blogs that I love and the people that I care about to hear their opinions without my RSS reader. So I set up different groups in my RSS reader to organize it, and some of the groups I set up aren't just based on content, but they're based on what's really super important to me. And one thing that's important to me is that I know what my coworkers are writing on their blogs. So this is my coworker blog group, and I can go and I can see that when I took this screenshot, the devs here at Moz had written a new blog post on the Moz dev blog. Megan, who's sitting here, she'd written a new post on her blog. So I wanted to be like, hey, Megan, what's you been up to? And Cyrus had written, something about disavowing, all the crazy fun stuff. So that's another way to keep up with people, and it's another way to kind of have an alert that something is there that you need to pay attention to. Because let me tell you, if I see that my coworkers have written new blog posts, I read that folder first. I also read my local folder to find out what's happening in my neighborhood. Those are my two. If I don't read anything else in my RSS reader, it's those two things. So the second so we've found our influencers, we're tracking them, we're engaging with them. So part of the process that I really like to speed up a lot is the content discovery, right? There's tons of blog posts, tons of tweets, stuff is being crazily published. I read something that it was from every month we're producing as much content that was produced from the beginning of human history to the year 2000 or something. So there's so much stuff out there, and not all of it is great. But you want to be sharing those things on Twitter, and you want to be talking about your niche, and you want to be involved in your community. So how do you go out and how do you speed up finding that great content? So, you know, you can use things like Newsly, which I mentioned, and you can use things like your RSS reader to find those people, but how do you do some other stuff? So I mentioned this earlier when I was explaining what IFTT does. So this is one of my favorite things. If you favorite a tweet, you can get it to save to Feedly, Pocket, Instapaper. I think there's one for Evernote. I'm sure there's lots of other IFTT recipes that you can save to whatever your kind of favorite let's read this later. You can search on IFTT for recipes, you know, using keywords around them that people have shared, so you can make it really easy for you, or you can just figure out how to set it up yourself. So I love this because I don't know how many of you guys, you know, often I'm sitting on the bus riding into work and I'm looking at Twitter and I see something that looks really interesting, but I know that article is going to take longer than my bus ride to read, or maybe I'm just, you know, there's someone listening to music next to me that's really loud and I just don't have that kind of focus time. So I just favorite it and later it shows up in my Feedly and as saved for later, and boom, I can read the article when I have that time. So I really encourage you guys all to, you know, search around IFTTT for things that are specific to your industry. You know, type in kind of your keywords, see kind of what is out and about. So I found a few recipes that, you know, I thought would be really helpful for some of these people who have these brand Twitter accounts. So this is a Twitter account for a feminist film review blog. They always are, you know, they have Twitter chats, they're always doing all these reviews. So I found this recipe that anytime there's a new movie release, they add it automatically to a Google Calendar. So it's just one of those tedious steps in their content process, because they're always watching out for new movie releases, that they could just automatically set up IFTTT to do this, and those movie releases, they just appear like magic. This is a Twitter account for Romania Insider, which is a Romanian news, like newspaper, news source, news channel. And, you know, I found a recipe that if there's an earthquake in Romania, anywhere in Romania, it will email you. Now, how amazing, I mean, we don't want earthquakes, of course, natural disasters, you know, think of the people, but if you were a news source and you were the ones to break the earthquake or get this like immediate trigger so you could immediately send that tweet and change your whole Twitter plan that day to be like, oh, breaking news, earthquake, let's pay attention to that. This is a Twitter account here for a book review blog, and you know, if you were sharing other content besides just your reviews, this IFTT recipe might be handy, which is every time there's a book review in the New York Times, it saves it to Evernote so you can read it later. Probably something that this audience would like to share out or hear about. So those are a few, you know, industry specific ones. Okay, so you looked through IFTT, you didn't really find what you were looking for, maybe you just want to set up some alerts. Okay, so we probably all use Google Alerts at one point or another, and we all know it doesn't really work. I don't know about you guys, but Google Alerts, I don't think sends me anything on my name anymore, and I'm like, no guys, you fail. So at Moz, we have a tool called Fresh Web Explorer. This is part of our paid tool, so you do have to pay for it, but it functions much like Google Alerts is supposed to function. So you can set up different types of searches with different operators, and you can create alerts based on it to email you, and it actually works. Yay! So this is a search I did for mentions of LeVar Burton. For those of you who don't know, LeVar Burton is doing a Reading Rainbow Kickstarter right now. So I specifically removed anything coming from the Kickstarter.com site because I didn't want to see that. And you can see when LeVar launched his campaign, which is the day where his mentions spiked really, really high. And he also did like this viral video on like crack.com. It was really funny, but anyway. So it's a good way to, track new content about the people that you're interested in or things in your industry that have gone really hot. Okay, so we found the people, we found the content. How do we share that content? I don't know about you guys. I know Megan agrees with this, but you spend too much time like setting up those tweets. You gotta grab, you gotta find, so you spend all this time finding the content, then you gotta share it, and you gotta make sure you share it in a format that makes sense. You gotta grab the person's Twitter handle, all this stuff. This can take up massive amounts of time. I know I've had times where I've been, I sit there and I put on like 2 episodes of Game of Thrones and sit there and just schedule tweets out for Moz. It's crazy. So how do we do that quicker? So I personally use this for my own personal account. We haven't tried this at Moz. Perhaps a little, like if you're enterprise or larger teams, this probably won't work. But for any of you guys who, it's just you, or you have a small brand, or even if you have a small team, this may work really well for you. So I use a combination. So I'm using IFTTT. I'm using Bitly to shorten my links, and I'm using Buffer. So, I put the cupcakes here because it's kind of like a recipe. You do one trigger, sets another trigger, sets another trigger. So I have the little Bitmark extension on my browser that you guys can add to Firefox or Chrome. And I have it set so anytime I am on a piece of content and I hit my little Bitmark extension up top because I want to shorten that link, it shortens the link and it automatically sends it to Buffer, which then schedules it to send out on my Twitter accounts at the times I have already set in Buffer. So all I do is I'm on that page, I read that great blog post, I hit that shortening, it's done. So you can also do Bitmarks straight to Twitter. So if you just want to tweet it immediately, I don't know about you guys, but I read a lot of stuff really late at night when everyone else is asleep. I'm on the West Coast, and the rest of you are in bed. So this is not an ideal situation. Like for me to just send it to Twitter, it does not work. You can also set this up to send to Hootsuite for those of you that use that as your solution. So here I am. I'm sharing out my Mozinar today, and this is a screenshot from Chrome, and I hit my little Bitmark, and it saves that link, and it throws up this screen and says, here's what I saved. So I have it set to tweet whatever the title is. So it will tweet how to speed up your Twitter process. Now, those of you guys are like, that's not what you want to tweet out, Erica. Like, you want to tweet out more information. You want to be more specific about this. That's not a good tweet. Okay, I know. You want more than that. So how IFTTT works is that a lot of these recipes have delays on them, and it checks like every 15 minutes or so. So you have a little bit of time to mess with that title. So I went and I edited it, and I put in that hashtag, and I had a call for people to sign up, and I told them that I was doing the webinar. It automatically adds the link at the end that you've already shortened, so you don't have to worry about that. But you can add people's Twitter handles. You can add context about what the article is. You could quote them, whatever it is that will make that tweet appealing to your audience. So I just edited that title and saved it. Beautiful. And then it went into Buffer. And I can see that it was, I think I did this really late at night or something, and scheduled it the next day for 1:32 p.m., which is one of the times I have set up in Buffer to send tweets. Beautiful. And it tweeted it for me. And all was well and beautiful. So I hope that you guys are thinking like, how can I speed this up? How can I do this better? This is one system I've developed. It's worked really well for my own personal brand. If you guys have a small brand, it'll work. It'll be beautiful because you're just going to read some great content and you're just going to send it off. One click, all done. You don't have to worry about it again. So we got this like process down. We're like sending things out. We also want to make sure that we're joining in conversations in a meaningful manner for our brand. And this is where, there's lots of ways that you can do shortcuts to your process. But this is kind of the area that I'm a little like, don't do shortcuts. Let's, do shortcuts to go find the things, but have those meaningful conversations and, let's make some friends and have some fun. Because this is when I go into my like job reviews and, my boss, she asked me, oh, what do you like about being on social? I'm like, I love interacting with people. I love talking with people. That is the best part. This other stuff, like scheduling tweets, oh, kill me. But, yeah. So you're having this interaction. So let's be human. I don't know about you guys, but I'm a little in love with the people behind Denny's Diner. Lately, they are just cracking me up. So this was one of their tweets. I love pancakes. Like I was like, I'm retweeting this. Pancakes, delicious. Maybe not from Denny's. I'm a little bit of a snob, but like this is cute and adorable, and it's 140 characters. What? Don't forget to, share useful information. So, you're on those Twitter chats, you're hopping in, you're looking at what influencers are saying, answer people's questions. So this was a very serious question from this guy who said he needed help for someone who was a victim of sexual and domestic violence. And you can see at the bottom of the screen, RAIN, which is a national rape and abuse prevention network, and they help people. They responded and they said, hey, for your friend, they can contact us. We can be of help. We can really help someone. I'm sure, you may be in a lot lighter industry. We just talk to marketers all day, so it's a little more fluffy. Maybe Denny's, you may be tweeting about pancakes. But you can be helpful and you can share useful information with people. Again, those Twitter chats, here was someone that was looking for more information about the cost of hospitalization. So this is, someone searching in a Twitter chat for information. It looks like maybe they're doctors, so they're probably looking to help their patients. And a, company reached out to them. They told them their product, but they said it in a very helpful way that was not inauthentic. It wasn't like, oh, hey, I need new shoes, and someone was like, I can give you a hat. Like, don't do that. Be helpful. Make connections. Let people see what you do. You can talk about, your brand and what you sell, but do it in a way that's human. And, don't forget that even though Twitter filters are when you're replying to people, only the people who follow you and the person you're responding to can see it. But don't forget that people do look at this stuff, and people see that your brand is responding and they like that, and that, your at replies can be clever and cute, and people can retweet those and like them. Charmin got retweeted a bunch and favorited for this tweet where they talked about duty. So that's their brand. They make toilet paper. It's not, it's their thing. Not, what we'd be tweeting about as Roger, but it works for them. And, if you are doing good engagement, like Geek Rohan here, they asked a question, but then they didn't respond. Like, don't forget to respond. Like, you have to follow up. You can't just like shout out like, hey, people engage with me, and then be like, oh, are you responding to me? What? Respond, respond. So as you're setting up these tweets, you guys probably noticed that Twitter is showing you all the images lately. The images make such a huge difference. We've done a lot of testing here at Moz with this, and we've seen way more engagement if we send out images. So if you guys are sending out images, make sure to use compelling and high contrast images. So I thought this image was great. Like, I noticed this on my Twitter stream right away. You know, black and white, bold, you know, you have a member of KISS with their mouth open, like, you're like, what? What did Moz just tweet? And don't forget to size those images for Twitter. So, you know, Twitter has specifics on dimensions, and make sure you use that, because then your whole image will show in your tweet. I've seen a lot of people send like very vertically oriented images and of like people, and if you take a person's body and if you only show the middle part, you're really only showing their chest and waist, which you probably want to show their face. Yeah, just throwing that out there. So Game of Thrones, if you want to see some great images, they're killing it. Though, if you aren't caught up on Game of Thrones, don't look at their Twitter account because it's full of spoilers. So one thing that I think is really cool that you can use for IFTTT is for breaking news alerts. So, you know, this is something that when there's a national crisis or something terrible happening in the world that's just flooding the Twitter streams, it's probably not the most appropriate time for you to be like, and buy my toilet paper or whatever you're selling. So you can use IFTTT to set up alerts for breaking news. So something is really impactful, especially something that's really impactful for your industry. You can set that up. So this was a terrible tweet from the NRA. This was after a mass shooting, the one that happened in Aurora, and they tweeted out, "Good morning, shooters. Happy Friday. Weekend plans." What? Like, okay, they're gun people. All right. But they probably should have been a little more sensitive to the breaking news that was happening about shooting. Probably not the best time to be like, yeah, let's go shoot some things. So you're doing all these things right. You got it, you got it, you got it. Oh yeah, we have to actually analyze it. We have to do some testing. We have to do some measurement. We got to look in and say, like, how's it going? So how do you do that in a timely manner, and how do you make sure that, you know, you're tracking the right goals for your Twitter account? So there's definitely, if you're just like in there and you're like, I just got to figure out really quickly what's working and what's not. I don't have a lot of time. So there's a couple tools that I like to just pop in and kind of see, you know, what's going on, what's hot, what's doing well on my Twitter account. So in Bitly, so this is actually the paid version of Bitly. There's the free version, which has different types of reports. Similar, a little different. So these are the top shared links on Moz in the last month. And we have this link building guide. Woo! Probably means we need to share that out more. We've been doing some paid advertising, so our paid ads come in number 2. And then one of our blog posts, and I can't remember for the life of me what this one was, we actually save all these links before they're live, so Bitly doesn't save the titles, so it can be a little, we have to actually look at the URLs when we're looking at our analytics. A little fun, you know, mix it up. But it can tell us what the top things that we're sharing out on Twitter are. And, you know, I really encourage, if you guys are, something is going really hot on your Twitter account, share it again. So we did a study a couple years ago, which I think Peter Bray did. Peter Bray did, he's our follower wonk lead, and he found that tweets last about 18 minutes. And after that 18 minutes, they're out of your stream. So if you share it again, I mean, don't share it every 18 minutes, for the love of God. Do not do that. But, you know, you can share it the next day, or you can share it a few hours later, and new people are going to see it. People who haven't seen it are going to see it. So if something's really resonating with your audience, share it again. Another quick view to see how your Twitter account is doing is in Sprout Social. So Sprout Social is a paid tool. And, I can quickly hop in and I can see like, hey, we've been over the last 30 days, we had a little dip in engaging with people on Twitter, but then we hopped right back up. I thought this was really interesting that our direct messages were higher when our @mentions dipped. So I wonder if those people that were direct messaging us would have been the people later in the month that were just tweeting at us. So if you're using Buffer, you can hop in and you can see what's trending well. You can also look at your potential reach, which I kind of like. I'm like, how many people are seeing my content? It's especially fun if someone really cool like retweets you. Like one time Neil Gaiman retweeted me and I was like, yes, Neil has like 1 million followers. This is amazing. My reach is so high. And then I had my like little moment and then I was like, oh, and then the rest of my tweets no one's engaging with. Yay. So again, you can see like they actually mark in Buffer which are your top tweets. So if you come in here and you're like, oh, this was a hot tweet, maybe I should share that again. So I talked a little bit about how Buffer, you set up times. Okay, so how do you do that? How do you find the best times to share with your audience? And I love this. So in Follower Wonk, you can look at the most active hours for your followers, and we have this handy little integration with Buffer. You can set up how many times you want to schedule it per day, and you just hit this button, and it automatically schedules it. I suggest, every month or two, redoing your schedule because your interactions with people are going to change as your audience grows. You may start out, like say you have a small business in Seattle, you may start out with a really, really Seattle-centric audience, and it may grow. You may get an online store, build your online presence and you're shipping all across the country, and all of a sudden you may have a bigger East Coast audience. Well, they're going to be up earlier in the morning. If you guys are using a True Social Metrics, which I highly recommend. It's a great tool. We use it here at Moz for our metrics. They actually will break down the time of day people are most engaged with you. So this was like the last month of Moz's Twitter account, and we were really surprised. We were like, Sunday at 11 a.m. because we always, most of you guys are like, this is what I do for my living, so I'm engaging with you guys during the weekday when I'm at work. That's usually when you guys are chatting with us. It's great. But, this like sending out some good content on Sunday at 11, you guys were like, yeah, I have time to sit here and read this while I'm enjoying my cup of coffee. So those are some quick metrics, but what about your long-term metrics? What should you be, maybe spending a little more time reporting on? So a lot of people ask for how many followers you have. I'm sure any of you guys running any social media accounts, you've got that from other people. So tell me, what's your follower count? Or, hey, can you get us 10,000 more followers in 6 months, or 100,000, or whatever these like ridiculous numbers are? This is not your goal. Your goal is to chat with more people. Your goal is to be more engaged. Your goal is to connect with people in your industry and be an industry voice. Followers, they're a health metric, not a KPI. And they're a health metric because, of course, if you have an engaging Twitter account that people like talking with, you're going to get more followers. But, it's kind of a cart-horse situation. So what should you be looking at? So how do you look at those engagement numbers? So I love True Social Metrics for this. They break it all down. They create this, I love this high-level report of your conversation rate, which is how many people you're chatting with, or your comments per post that you're making. So all those @mentions on Twitter. Your amplification on Twitter, that's going to be all the people retweeting you, and your applause, all those people favoriting you. So what, to kind of break down what this actual score is, and this is a great high-level report. It's the number of actions taken by your followers. So say the number of people retweeting you divided by the number of posts. This is in a certain time period, and that gives you your rate. So you can really see, like, with Moz on this report, for every post on Twitter we made, we got 2.44 comments. So we want to increase that. We want more people engaging with us. So when we're thinking about, okay, so we're getting this engagement stuff down, we're getting comments, we're getting shares, we're getting applauses, but we're growing our followers at the same time as a consequence of being a truly engaging, awesome brand. Well, as you're doing that, you want to maintain that same conversation level. So True Social Metrics breaks it down in what they call a relative engagement numbers. And these relative numbers look at this rate again, like we talked about previously, but they look at the comments and they break it down per 1,000 followers. So you figure out whatever time period you're reporting in, you take the number of actions, divide it by the number of posts you've made to Twitter in that time period, and you divide it again by your followers per 1,000 to get your relative engagement rate. Now, if you have a large account, you can, make that number a little higher that you're dividing your followers by, or if you're smaller, maybe you only want to divide it by 100. Maybe that makes most sense for the kind of numbers that you're reporting. Both these high-level reports really show, how much time you're spending and how much people are really valuing your presence on social media, and what a good job you are doing, social media manager. Yay! And this relative engagement rate. So for those of you, if you guys are still trying to wrap your brain around it, I know it took me a while to understand. It's really like if you threw a dinner party and you invited 10 people to your dinner party. It's a large dinner party. You have a large house. It's great. And you talked with 5 of those people at your party. You engaged at a 50% rate, right? And let's just say you just loved having parties. So the next week you threw another party. But this time you invited 20 people to your party. So 20 people came. To maintain the same engagement rate, you would have to talk with 10 people at your 20-person party. So if you wanted to increase it, you'd have to talk with more than 10 people. So that's really kind of simplified, and I hope that helps with those of you that are still oh, this relative engagement rate, what is that? What does that mean? So it's just really making sure that you're engaging with the same number of people as you're growing your following. That you want to keep up that percentage, and you want to keep talking with people. And if you have, and you'll find, if you have a lot of followers for your brand, and we found this with Moz, we were like, well, what? We're on Twitter, we're talking with people all the time, and we're only, per 1,000 people, we're only engaging with 0.0082% of them. What? That is so tiny. We want to be talking to way more of you. And we want to make sure that as we're growing new followers, that number doesn't go down, because how sad would that be? We want to talk with more of you guys. Tweet at us. So I hope that you guys got a lot of new ideas to, help out your process. And this is a list of all the tools that I talked about in this presentation. So the free ones like IFTTT, which can do a lot of amazing things. I definitely suggest just playing around with it, seeing what it'll do, seeing if things will work. Newsly, stalking your influencers. You got your freemium tools out there, Bitly for shortening your URLs, Buffer for making all those tweets go out at the right time. For those of you that still love RSS like me, Feedly is the place to be. Dr. Pete also on Moz's blog, I don't know, about 6 months or so ago, he reviewed a bunch of RSS readers. So if you guys aren't in love with Feedly, which was his recommended one, by the way, you can go check out his post. He went through all of them for all of us. Follower Wonk for, looking up your influencers and timing those posts to Buffer. Topsy, just finding more influencers. True Social Metrics, hop on there to get your analytics. You can do those numbers. You can do all that counting and division yourself, but they do it so well. And they give you deeper metrics too if you really dive down in there. And, if you guys are looking for a replacement for Google Alerts to use that way, Fresh Web Explorer, hit it up, and Sprout Social for more of those metrics. Yay! And just, go tweet your heart out. You can do it.
Yes, you can. Thank you, Erica. That was wonderful. All right. So we are heading over into the Q&A section of this Mozinar. Just a couple notes. Again, this was recorded, so if you did miss anything, if you want to review the slide deck, specifically, I know there were a lot of URLs thrown out there and different recipes. You can view that at moz.com/webinars, and that will be available probably in about 48 hours or so. We try and get it up as soon as we can. It's usually within that time frame. All right, so we want to hear your questions. You can ask them a couple different ways. First way is through the GoToMeeting interface, and second way is over on Twitter using the Mozinar hashtag, and our Director of Community, Jen Lopez, is monitoring that. So she's collecting those, putting them in a spreadsheet so we can send them over to Erica. And we already have some questions coming through, so let's get to those. Erica, first question from Paul. He's looking for help in using Twitter for local brick and mortar businesses. He said the usual examples that people threw out there for pizza and coffee shops, but what about tougher Twitter business sectors like plumbing, podiatrists, divorce lawyers? He's asking as an agency handling Twitter for those small businesses.
So Paul, I really think that there's lots of room out there for businesses like that. People always throw out plumbers. I don't know what it is about plumbers, but you guys always on Mozinar, you guys are always like, what about plumbers? So I was actually, when I was putting together this slide deck, I was like, I'm going to find a plumber out there who's giving advice and like helping people with their plumbing problems. Like, wouldn't it be amazing if someone's like tweeting? I mean, because this is totally something you would tweet. You'd be like, oh my God, my toilet's overflowing again. Like, that totally sounds like a complaint tweet that we probably all send out tweets similar to that, right? Wouldn't it be great if some plumber was out there being like, hey, here's some suggestions, or, hey, I'm local to you, give me a call, and, maybe I'll give you 10% off, or making that, connection, or here's some, things you should look at before you call a plumber. Like, one time I know my toilet overflowed because I had like a cleaning thing in it, and like a bleach, like, I don't know, they're like little like tabs or something that you put, and it got stuck in like, and it tried to like go down into the toilet because whatever. Made a mess. It was overflowing, and it was like, that was a really simple solution. So maybe, the plumber follows up and says, hey, how can I help you? Or like, have you looked at these simple things? Or maybe you have some great blog content. Or maybe it's a very serious plumbing problem, and, let's say you're a plumber in Seattle and they're in New York. You probably go to like industry chats, or you probably engage with people, and you can say like, hey, I can't help you because I'm in Seattle, but my friend Sally has a plumbing business in New York, and she can come out and check that out. So there's definitely lots of, different ways that you can have your small business clients out there engaging locally. Don't forget to search, especially if you're in a smaller town. I don't know, I do this in Seattle too, where I'm looking at like the people using Seattle as a hashtag. That can be really powerful too, to making those connections with people. So don't discount yourself if you're not like in a fun industry like pizza.
Pizza is very fun. All right, great. We have Jessica's wondering, do you know what the dimensions for Twitter pictures are that we should use? And if you don't know off the top of your head, I looked it up.
Thank you, Megan.
It is 440 by 220 pixels, centered and aligned vertically.
So you can also, I believe, if you want to make bigger ones, you can do multiples of that.
Great. Perfect. All right. So I hope that helps, Jessica. Okay. Next question. Jeannie is wondering, she says, impressive coverage on Twitter. What amount of time should one expect to take per week covering these things? And to stretch time needed, which tasks would you say are like easier to delegate out to people?
Oh man, so this, I would look at everything that you're doing that's on your plate and figure out it's really what time makes sense for your business. It really depends how mission critical Twitter is for you. Some of you guys, you probably have a bigger following on Facebook. So you may want to spend more time on Facebook than on Twitter. I would definitely, if you have a Twitter, if you're on Twitter, you need to be there. You need to be doing something, right? So maybe you spend, an hour one day, and then the rest of the time maybe you just spend 15 minutes checking in. And you spend that hour, finding people to interact with, finding that content to share out, setting up that content, and then you spend those 15 minutes each day chatting with people, responding to people. Maybe you find, specific Twitter chats to interact with them. And it's really what makes sense for your brand and what makes sense for your own time scale. I always hesitate on, delegation. I'm not, if you're just delegating to other employees, there's lots of this stuff you can delegate. You can delegate scheduling. You can delegate, your long-term metrics. I know when Megan was brought onto the team, I was like, guess who's doing weekly metrics? That is Megan.
And I do like it.
And, don't be afraid if you're working with a team to delegate. You can all work together. You guys probably don't realize this, but when you're interacting with Roger on Twitter, there can be up to 6 different people in interpreting what Roger has to say for you on Twitter. So you can do it, and you can play just as big a role, even if you are delegating some of those smaller pieces out, whether it's finding good content or setting up those tweets or doing metrics or things like that. You can still be awesome and cohesive to your brand as long as people have the training of what you're looking for and how to do it, and really what's important to your brand.
All right, great. Patrick is wondering, do you have a strong opinion on Hootsuite versus Buffer? People seem to prefer Buffer, but it can't really seem to find out why it's preferred so much.
So I will disclaimer, it's been a while since I've used Hootsuite. So I'm possibly not as versed on their newest features, because I know these tools, everyone's improving them all the time and adding cool new features. So I personally really like Buffer because of the easiness of the scheduling factor. So when I can, hit that bit mark and I can save it in Bitly and it sends to my Buffer, and my Buffer is scheduled out to send tweets when I know my audience is there. Like, it just makes it the process so much simpler. I don't have to do that final step of, selecting the drop down and finding those times that I want to send it. That said, I have not used Buffer in the team environment. I know that they do have their business accounts now, and that you can set up, different user accounts so you can work as a team like you can in Hootsuite. So I haven't played with that in Hootsuite in a very long time, and I haven't played with that in Buffer at all. So I can't really give you the drawbacks or the reasons to. But I find Buffer to be a slicker tool.
All right, great. All right, Jen wants to make a note. Jen, our director of community, says Hootsuite does more than Buffer, though. Buffer is only for sending. Hootsuite is for managing, so it's not apples to apples. She just wanted to make a note and made sure we spoke up on that.
Thanks, Jen.
All right. Let's see. Next question. Let's hop over to Twitter and see what all of you on Twitter are asking. Niece for Anne is wondering, are there any free services similar to the Moz Fresh Web Explorer that you would recommend? Do you know of any?
So the only thing I can think of is just Google Alerts, but they're iffy at best if they actually work. You can probably, I bet, find some recipes in IFTTT that will do similar things to things that you want. I know I was helping my stepdad this weekend send Craigslist alerts to his email or to his text. So that's using like an RSS crawling service. I mean, it's specific to Craigslist. But he wants to go buy stuff. So you can probably find a few things similar, but it's really, I think, between us and Google Alerts is really the only services out there doing it.
Cool. All right, Janie is wondering, do you have any advice for B2B tweeters? It's difficult to talk to businesses when they only want to talk to their own customers. So how can you just start those conversations with businesses?
Oh, businesses.
It's hard. It's hard.
It totally is hard. I would look for the ones that are different. I would also look and see how they're managing their Twitter account. So at Moz, so Roger gets invited to like Twitter chats. People always want him. They're like, when's Moz going to be on a Twitter chat and chat with us? Well, that's not really how we manage Moz. That's just not like Roger isn't hopping on Twitter chat and giving SEO advice. That doesn't mean that employees aren't doing that. So, I'll jump in on SEO, like SEO chat, which is every Thursday. Sometimes I'll jump in there, Jen or Cyrus or Megan, and we jump in as ourselves. And that may be just how a brand is managing it. So I would also look for that. I would look and see if maybe those brands are interacting as, the employees themselves are jumping in and talking in, are in those conversations and interacting with people. And I would, if your business is in that industry and if your competitors aren't talking to people or interacting with people on a real level and are only talking to customers or only, answering the bare minimum of customer service questions, this is to your advantage. That is a time that you can really beat those customers or beat your competitors. And, sometimes you got to be that industry leader and you got to kind of wake up those brands and be like, hey guys, we're kind of all in this together. Like, let's kind of make this B2B thing happen and let's show that businesses aren't just these like automatons that only want to talk to their customers or that they only want to just like tweet about themselves or what have you.
Great. All right. So we have a couple of messages from our community, from our listeners here, on what's happening, what we've been talking about. Andy Hill recommended TalkWalker as an alternative to Google Alerts. I don't know anything about that, Eric.
I haven't used that either.
Yeah, I'm not familiar.
Well, check it out.
Yeah, something
thanks, Andy.
to check out. Yeah, thanks, Andy. And Robert just wanted to make a note that it is bufferapp.com. On the last side, it looks like there was buffer.com, but the URL is bufferapp.com. So just a note on that. Cool. All right. So next question we'll take is from Aviva. I believe that's how you pronounce it. Sorry if I'm pronouncing that incorrectly. Do you have a way to monitor mentions of particular topics within particular publications? They're a local organization and they want to be able to share anything relevant written about their issue in local publications.
So I definitely suggest Fresh Web Explorer here. So if your publication has any sort of syndication for it, I mean, most publications now are all online, and they're sending out that content. Obviously, this is not going to work if they're behind a paywall, but if they are, if they have an RSS feed that they're sending out in the world, it will probably get caught by Fresh Web Explorer. And you can set up your operators specifically in that to search on specific sites for specific mentions. So you could say like, I want to search for, software services businesses mentioned in the Puget Sound Business Journal if we were looking for mentions of Moz.
Great suggestion. Cool. Jim is wondering for the bit.ly to buffer or Hootsuite method that you mentioned, How do you know if you're about to tweet over an already scheduled tweet? Hootsuite has a calendar for scheduled tweets, but how would you know if something is already scheduled? Is there any way to know, or would you just kind of have to check that?
So I believe, so in Buffer, it puts things in your schedule in order automatically. So you'd never send out like a tweet at the same time. If, the first one to come in gets the first slot, like say you have 4 slots a day, the content you save first gets slot number 1, next content 2, so on and so forth. And then it hops to the next day. If Hootsuite, I believe it sends out automatically, so you would have to check that out and see how the recipe actually works and dig in a little bit. It also usually sends it out on about a 15-minute delay, so you can also factor that in. So if you've just tweeted something like 3 minutes ago or something, again, that whole like, as long as there's at least 18 minutes between your 2 tweets, you're probably good.
Great, cool. All right. Let's see. Nathan just has a question about Pinterest, actually. Do you know of any freemium or free tools to connect Pinterest with Buffer, Bitly, etc., to follow your influencers and engage with Pinterest? Plus, like, measurement metrics at all?
So I have not dug in. I bet there are recipes in IFTTT that you can do similar things with this. I have not dug into them a lot. I know there are things like built in Pinterest where you can like tweet every time you pin something. I don't necessarily auto recommend doing that. But I would, I would definitely hop around on IFTTT and check that out. As far as metrics and things like that, I know there are companies out there doing them. Oh man, there's a brand that's doing something really cool and I can't think of what their name is. Starts with a C. But yeah, we'll see if I can think of that and tweet it out later. But I know Viral Tag. I think they might have changed their brand name, but I think if you still search Viral Tag, they're still there.
Is it Curly, Stephanie?
Curly, yes.
Thanks,
Curly.
Stephanie.
Thank you, Stephanie. So Curly, they're doing a bunch of really cool things with Pinterest. I'm looking at analytics, looking at what's going really hot. They're doing really cool, things with visuals that, crazy machine learning that, like, I kind of feel even like Google hasn't been doing because Google still can't really see an image and know what it's about unless you give it a bunch of data, right? SEOs, woo!
All right, cool. Okay, next question. Layla is wondering, do you have a favorite SEO keyword tracker? And this is tying back to Twitter. She says she's about to sign up for Swiss-made marketing to track keywords, and she's wondering, she's using this for words in to hashtag in social, specifically in Twitter. So she's looking for keywords that she can use as hashtags. Sounds like.
Interesting. So I haven't done this sort of like cross promotion. I kind of believe in using hashtags sparingly on Twitter. But, as far as SEO keyword trackers, I usually use Mozi's tools for that.
They are handy.
They are good. And that's where I have my most experience with SEO keyword trackers. So I would say those are my favorite. I have not used Swiss-made marketings, so I can't really give you any feedback on that. Sorry.
All right, cool. Yeah, I haven't really heard much of Swiss-made marketing. Sorry, Layla. All right. Let's see here. Aviva has another question. Have you used tools? Again, a lot of people are bringing up Hootsuite, or she also mentions Spreadfast as well. And how do you feel about those versus doing like a combo pack of getting like Buffer and True Social Metrics and getting those kind of like piecemeal?
Well, like Jen, I am Des. Buffer doesn't do the like looking at your mentions of who's interacting with you. So you're still going to need another tool for that. And it really depends on, what your needs are for your team and what you're looking at. So if you're having, multiple team members, you're going to want a solution. I know Hootsuite, I think, is a lower price point, so people love it for being able to manage across a team. At Moz, we use Social Engage. It's actually not our favorite. but it has a tagging feature where we can tag tweets, which is really imperative for our feedback cycle. So we can, give engineers what you guys are saying about our tools, right? So it helps us. Unfortunately, other tools don't have that. We also really like Sprout Social. They are really good management, and I showed them a little bit in the analytics section of like brief kind of overviews of analytics you can look at. I mean, as far as management, for scheduling for me, nothing beats Buffer because I can do the integration with IFTTT and do that one click. It saves me so much time in my own personal curation of content and what I'm sharing. They did this study that was like really, really crazy where it said like most people didn't read any of the content that they were tweeting out. Well, apparently I'm an exception to that because I do not send out anything on my Twitter stream that I have actually not read the article. And that's really important for me. And I think that's really important as you're managing your brand and you're, developing that authenticity and that industry leadership. You want to make sure the things that you're sending out are quality, not just garbage. As far as the tool Spreadfast, I haven't actually ever used that. But I'm definitely going to put that on my list of tools to check out because we are always looking for new solutions that are up and coming to see, what works best for us because things change, guys.
Yep, always looking for better things. All right, cool. Jamie over on Twitter is wondering, does Moz consider original tweets linking to one of their articles a PR mention? If so, what is the criteria for it to count?
I'll read it again. So we, so that does get, so when we're looking at the metrics in True Social Metrics, if people are just retweeting whatever we posted, that just gets counted in the amplification. If people are like doing some sort of retweet where they're talking about it or specifically doing like the old school style retweet, it's going to be counted in the mention sections. So at Moz, you guys are going to be shocked. We don't actually do focus a ton on PR, and we actually don't really do any metrics around that. I certainly think if that is part of your PR goals is to hit a wider audience via Twitter, that's definitely something that you could use that sort of amplification metric from True Social Metrics to put into your PR plan. It really depends if that audience on Twitter is something you want to hit. I know there are lots of journalists on Twitter, so that can be really powerful. You can also use follower wonks bio search to look up journalists. Most journalists put that in their bio that they're a journalist or a writer or something that you can easily search. And so maybe you're digging in a little further and maybe, I wouldn't suggest doing this weekly or anything crazy like that, but, maybe you're doing some one-off examinations of how many PR people or professional press have seen your blog posts and you're looking at those retweets.
Cool. All right. Elizabeth is wondering, she says, it seems like we've mentioned a lot of separate tools today. Does it really save time?
It saves time if it works for your brand and if you can work it into your workflow. That's where if you know how to use it, once it's set up, and if you've got it down and it works for your team, your brand, and your workflow, then it will save you time.
Great. Cool. Casey's wondering, have you ever used paper.ly /learn-more.html for mentioning influencers? Have you ever used that before or checked it out?
I have not. Sounds interesting. We're going to have to go take a look later.
Yeah, another tool to check out. Great. All right. So that is about all the questions we have. We do have a question from Layla asking if we have free demos of our Moz tools. Unfortunately, we do not. We don't have a sales team here, but we do have an awesome help section with a lot of free videos and free information. So check that out. And if you have any questions, specific questions, you can contact us at help@moz.com, and we'll be happy to connect with you.
Yeah, if you guys are interested in Moz tools, I definitely suggest heading to our help hub, which is just moz.com/help, and we have like Megan said, tons of videos. You can also take a 30-day free trial with us, and you can cancel it if you don't like it.
Yes.
We don't hide those buttons.
Yeah, exactly. And you can definitely cancel before those 30 days and you won't be charged. And then if you have any questions about our tools as you explore, definitely send a message to help@moz.com and we'll be able to help you out. Sounds like Jeannie, you might have a question about Moz Fresh Web, so shoot us an email at help and we'll try and connect with you there and take a look at the specifics. So that is about, looks like all the questions we have. So
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining us. This was really fun today. Erica, thank you again. It was wonderful having you here and having you on the other side of the table today.
It's really weird, guys.
All right, our next Mozinar that we have is Tuesday, June 24th, and we have the wonderful Aleda Solis, an awesome friend of Moz, talking about how to build links for international SEO. So hope you can join us then. Thanks again for coming, and thanks, Erica.
Thanks. Have a great day, guys.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye now.